Peace and Politics in Israel, next on International Focus.
The Institute of World Affairs at UWM and Milwaukee Public Television present International Focus, a global magazine linking Wisconsin and the world.
Welcome to International Focus. I'm Robert Ricigliano, Director of the Institute of World Affairs at UWM. Following Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert's decision to step down, Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni has narrowly won the race to lead the Kadima party. It now falls on her to assemble a ruling coalition or face early elections. Who are the players Kadima must bring into the coalition, and how might their demands shape Israeli domestic politics and the peace process? What does the political landscape look like should early elections be held? To help us understand the dynamics of the current political environment and the issues within Israeli society, we're joined in the studio by Rakefet Ginsber, Jewish Agency Emissary to Milwaukee, currently working with the Milwaukee Jewish Federation. A native Israeli, she holds a master's degree in social work from Tel Aviv University. She previously worked with women's organizations like the Counseling Center for Women and the Israeli Women's Network. We're also joined by phone by Yitzhak Reiter, who teaches in the Conflict Studies program of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Department of Political Science of Ashkelon Academic College. He previously served as Deputy Advisor on Arab Affairs to 3 Israeli prime ministers. He is currently a visiting scholar at the University of Minnesota. Welcome both to International Focus.
Terrific talking to you.
Yitzhak, I'm wondering if we could start, if you could help us first understand, before we get into Kadima and Prime Minister Livni, if you could help us understand the general mood of the Israeli electorate, their attitudes toward government, their sense of the direction of the country and the political parties.
Well, I think there are 2 major issues in the political life within Israel in the last decade or 2. First of all, Israel witnessed since 1966 political instability. None of the governments could end its official tenure. And I think that the Israeli society of today is very much looking forward to see some sort of stability and solid running of the government. This is one point. The other point is that the major debate within the Israeli society, I think since its establishment 60 years ago, is the issue of peace with the Palestinians. Peace with the Palestinians, peace with the Arab world. And the Israeli society is divided between the more dovish and the more hawkish hardliners in Israel. And I think that these elections are creating a sort of hope for the more dovish campaign among Israelis.
Now, if we could focus on the idea of stability, is this election within Kadima, was it hoped that it would bring that stability, or do you think it's likely to bring that stability?
Well, Kadima is a new party, as all of you know, and this is, I think, one of the major consequences of this election, that as a new party, it has to prove itself as a stable party and a centrist party in the Israeli polity. I think many Israelis are aspiring for a strong party to be in the center of politics and to run a policy which is moderate, not hardline, as it was in the past. And now Kadima proved itself to conduct an election campaign to the primary polls, which was fueling its political machine with people who are supporting the party. You have mayors in different levels of the Israeli politics. You have major professional unions activists who were involved in this politics, and and they created a sort of party machinery, which is so important for a party to have life. And I believe that the elections for the Kadima primaries now prove that this party, although it has some upheavals, internal upheavals, as a result of the elections, it can operate in the Israeli politics.
I guess that had been a question about Kadima. You mentioned it as being a young party. Its leader, El Sharon, lapses into a coma. Olmert wins the election. He leaves in a corruption dispute, the controversy over the war in Lebanon. And that had been a question, just could Kadima survive? But you're saying that, yes, these elections seem to prove that it is a viable entity. What are the challenges that Foreign Minister Livni now faces as she's trying to become that centrist force in Israeli politics?
Well, once she will be able to form a government, she will face a few challenges. First of all, she has to stabilize the Israeli politics. She has to stabilize her party. She has to stabilize her coalition. She has to run her party to the end of the term of the government, and this is a precondition for her to face other challenges. The other challenges are, first of all, resuming peace negotiation with the Palestinians, which she is very deeply involved, as you know, and to try to achieve also a better condition on Israel's security challenge on both of its fronts, one in the north with the Hezbollah, to stabilize the situation, to be sure that the UN resolution 201 regarding the Hezbollah conditioning Hezbollah to be north of the Litani River, and so on. On the other front, in the south, with the Hamas, to make sure that the truce, the unofficial truce that Israel has with the Hamas, will sustain. These are major challenges. She also has to try, and I think that she is. I think that her election symbolizes it, to work on clearing the Israeli politics from being corrupted, as it was in the past. And I think that her personality, the fact that she is candid, that she is very much known for her integrity in Israel, is highly important to clear up the Israeli politics and to create a new atmosphere for Israelis and a hope for different politics. She is. I read the other day. I read an article, a very interesting article of one who compared her to Barack Obama in terms of signaling a change in the Israeli politics. For many Israelis, she symbolizes the change that they are hoping for.
Is that change predominantly on the sort of corruption integrity issue, or is it more in line with some of those other policies in terms of negotiations, either with the Palestinians, either Hamas or Fatah, or with external players, Lebanon, Syria? What's the change that Israelis are looking for?
I think the change is in the internal politics. The change that they are looking for is for new type of politicians who have no background, not as army generals who are dragging Israel into military adventures on the one hand, and on the other hand, some politicians who have connections with wealthy people, and this situation creates a sort of being on the brink of corrupting the polity. And I think that the Israelis are looking for a more clean and honest political play.
Now, if we look at the potential partners for Kadima, the people that Livni will now be negotiating with, obviously that includes the Labor Party.
Yeah.
What are some of the other parties that she will need to reach out to in order to form this coalition? And what are the potential impacts that will have on the direction of a new government?
Well, first of all, there are two parties who announced prior to the primary elections in Kadima that they will not join the government. They are seeking general elections, which are the Likud and the hardliners, the other radical right-wing party, Israel Beiteinu. Tzipi Livni will have to deal particularly with the Israeli ultra-Orthodox of Oriental extraction people, which is called Shas. This party conditioned its joining to the coalition on three major issues that Tzipi Livni will have to deal with and perhaps also to make compromises about. One of them is a financial one, to raise child welfare benefits to the families who are blessed with many children and so on. And the other one is to fund ultra-Orthodox education on equal footing, although that that the students are not educated in the official curricula and the core issues of the Israeli educational system. And there is also a political condition that the Shas posing to Tzipi Livni, which is not to negotiate over Jerusalem within the framework of discussions with the Palestinians.
We have just a few, about 30 seconds left. I wonder if there's just one parting thought you want to leave us with about a future with a potential Prime Minister Livni.
Can you repeat the question, please?
We have just a few seconds left, and I'm wondering if there's a final thought you want to leave with us about the potential future in Israel with a potential Prime Minister Livni.
Well, I think that Israelis are now looking forward with more hope for a sort of stabilizing the internal politics as well as the security and the diplomacy and foreign affairs policy between Israel and its Arab neighbors. And if Tzipi Livni will succeed to form the government, I believe that as a moderate and a new sort of politician, she will be a sort of inspiration to many Israelis to follow her line.
Great, thank you, Yitzhak Reiter. Thank you very much for being with us from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, currently at the University of Minnesota. Thank you very much for your time.
You're most welcome.
And to our viewers, we'll be back in just a moment on International Focus.
The Institute of World Affairs presents our community with a range of public programs relating to global issues, U.S. foreign policy, and the world economy. For more information about the Institute of World Affairs, call 414-229-3220 or visit our website at www.iwa.uwm.edu.
Welcome back to International Focus. We're talking about peace and politics in Israel in the light of the recent party elections with the Kadima Party. We have Rakefet Ginsberg here with us, and I'm wondering if you could start just some general impressions on what Yitzhak Reiter had to say in his reading of the situation in Israel.
As a woman and as an Israeli, the fact that that the first time a woman stands as a head of a leading party, it's something unique for us. As Israelis, we had Golda Meir as a prime minister, but she was nominated by Ben Gurion. She wasn't elected as a prime minister at first. So, for us, as a society, to know that we have the ability to choose a woman to be a leader, to lead us as a country, with all the difficulties all the security issues that we all deal with. But in Israel, it's very popular to talk about bringing generals, as Yitzhak mentioned, bringing generals and have them as immediately as leaders for the country. It's different.
I'm wondering if you, just going down that line of both being a woman and being at this very difficult time, turbulent time in Israeli politics, as being a woman, has that helped Livni or hurt her, given the context that she's trying to ascend to the prime ministership in?
A lot was talked about. People talked about the fact that she was against the war in the Second Lebanon War, and she said, I think in the first or the second day, that the war going to end with negotiations. And eventually it did end after a month with negotiations. So a lot of people think, maybe there are different ways to solve problems. Maybe not just generals know how to solve problems. It doesn't mean that we don't need the generals anymore. It just means that maybe we need other opinions to be beside or be with them to get decisions. And maybe every decision needs to be balanced in a way that we're going to see the consequences on both sides. I think that a lot of people in Israel and maybe even around, the countries around Israel know that negotiations eventually going to solve the problem in the Middle East. The Middle East, it's not going to be an army solution. It's not going to be that won't. We had it enough. We still have it. We have it a long time already. That probably won't be the solution eventually. We'll need to find another solution. In another war, in another 2 wars, I don't know. But we hope as less as we can, because we all very tired from that. We really want to have, we all want peace. We want to just have life there.
Now, as Yitzhak Reiter mentioned, that is one of these perennial issues in Israeli politics around the peace process, as to whether to take a more hawkish approach, a more tough line, or a more dovish approach, a more line going more toward negotiation and perhaps going further in those negotiations. Given the way she's come into power, we didn't talk about this before, but Kadima has about 70,000 members. About half of those voted in this party election, and then she was elected over the number 2 candidate, Shaul Mofaz, by about 431 votes. So she's coming in a pretty narrow margin. How does that impact the position she now has in tackling this very difficult issue?
Mm-hmm. Some people say that she needs to go to elections immediately, because eventually only 16,500, something like that, people voted for her, if we check the last number.
Right.
So they can decide for 7.5 million people. But in democracy, they probably can. So we have it. And this is it's an issue. If she'll have enough power to build a new government, or to have the government with her. As Yitzhak mentioned, we need stability. I think a lot of us think that we're tired. We're tired. So many years that we have, and every government didn't finish even the term, the 4-year term that they have. And in a way, it's not that we are having somebody new in their field. We have the same people that running. We know Barak. We know Benjamin Netanyahu, and now Tzipi Livni. Although Kadima is a new party, now this is probably the only thing that we didn't experience before. The fact that she's coming from the right and somehow she's more liberal, or talking about negotiations, I think in this way she's bridging this gap between the right and the left. And in a way we can see that Kadima built by people that came from the Labor and from the Likud. So, and somehow she already brings that, in kind of...
Yitzhak made the cited the article that made a comparison between her. She's sort of the Barack Obama candidate in Israeli politics, in that she's campaigning on a platform of change. Is in some ways, then, from what you're describing, it almost sounds more like the Bill Clinton candidate, who was a more centrist version of a Democrat that put together a coalition more from the center. Is that her appeal, whether she forms a coalition government or whether she stands for early elections?
I think she's trying to build she's trying to build a government now, and she's trying to bring people or to bring parties from both sides. She already started the negotiation with both sides. Some of them said immediately that they're not gonna, as Yitzhak mentioned, they won't join, and some of them are willing to at least negotiate. I think it's interesting to see that even some of the parties don't really want to go to elections. So, because those negotiations open the opportunity for them to at least know that they have some Knesset members that they know and they can build the government or have their power with that. When we go to elections, we don't know who's going to win and how many votes they're going to get. So, and in a way, I think the parties that won the elections are the parties that think that out of elections they're going to get more power. Again, we see that, or at least, like, I'm trying to, I talked with friends in the last few days, and we all think that it's kind of, this is something different for us. This is a change. This is a change not just because of the point of view that she's bringing. For me, again, as a woman, the fact that she's a woman, the fact that she came from, in a way, she reminds us, Arik Sharon, that made this move from being in the right and so obvious that this is the only way to solve the problem, and suddenly, evacuating Gaza or having the disengagement from Gaza and doing something that seems totally from the other side. So the whole process this is a party that can bridge this gap between the right and the left. And the right and the left in Israel are almost equal for years. We're moving from one party to another, which is kind of, makes us tired.
Sort of watching the tennis match back and forth.
Right.
A lot of the people have the conventional wisdom about should there be early elections and should Livni not be able to put together a coalition government, that those early elections would tilt more toward the Likud and Benjamin Netanyahu, who would come in and take a very stark choice in terms of some of these issues about especially the peace process. Is that your reading of where the Israeli electorate is, that the Likud has that sort of early edge if it should go to elections? Most
of the surveys or the talks that made a few weeks ago or in the last few weeks showed that Benjamin Netanyahu is probably going to get the most votes. But that was before she was elected. And I don't know what's going to happen. I think the first few weeks are going to show us first if she can lead. We don't know. She never had this position. She was in other positions in the government, but none of them was something that was, such a leadership position. So if she'll be able to build a government, that's the way she's going to build a government, the way she's going to negotiate with the other parties. I think that shows a lot, or that will show us a lot, if she's able to do that, and if she really offer us something new or the same thing that we got used to, the same things, the same people, the same way to build a government, the same way to negotiate with other parties. Israelis are bothered by what's going on around Israel and the security issues, but Israel is very bothered by what's going on inside Israel. Education, healthcare, all those things that we're dealing with, and we're struggling. We have war for 60 years. Since Israel established, peace is rare. But it doesn't mean that we can't feel proud or and feel strong enough. In the last few years, we don't feel strong enough. We feel that we still need to work on that and to make sure that the strength that we're going to be for years from now, and not just the next step. We feel that we're going backward instead of going forward, and we need leadership that's going to help us, give us the vision, give us the different way to get more.
We have just about a minute or so left, and we haven't really talked about Israel in that broader context and the potential impact of a Prime Minister Livni on the regional relations and the relations specifically with the United States. I wonder if you could give us your insights on that.
Mm-hmm. A lot was talking about how she worked with other women in other places, and especially, Israelis see her as a friend. I don't know, but At least that's what what was mentioned, that she's a friend of Condoleezza Rice. So it's kind of, she has a good relationship with the government in United States, and they respect her and the way she negotiate with them or talk with them about different issues. They see in the same way things. I think again, this is something that we want to feel. It's very important for Israel. It's very important, the relationship with the United States. I think Israelis feel that this gives us kind of secure the fact that we're a small place. To know that there is a nation in the world, strong nation in the world that can be on our side. It helps. So it's important, and it's important. I think it's going to help if she's going to. I don't know how the elections here are going to end, but the fact that she has good relationship and she can work with Americans can help us to move on with the relationship with our neighbors, because it's up again for us as Israelis. It's important. We know that those negotiations with the Palestinians, with Syria, with Lebanon, going to be with the help or the intervention of United States. It's probably going to be more complicated to do that. Just Israel and the Arab countries. We need somebody to mediate and somebody to be there to help us make it. So the fact that she has good relationship, I think that's kind of hope for us.
Great. Rakefet Ginsber, thank you so much for adding your insights in this conversation. I know a very complicated issue. To our viewers, we'll see you next week here on International Focus.
For information about the Institute of World Affairs and its many programs, or to become a member of the Institute, call 414-229-3220 or visit us at our website.